What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, it's some of my final thoughts ahead of the Game Week 20 deadline. So I'm going to go through the latest team news and information, talk about a new signing that Crystal Palace have made, and then answer a ton of your questions as well. So let's get into it. So let's start with the team news. And for Arsenal, Mikel Arteta said that Declan Rice will be assessed today. The swelling on his knee hasn't gone down yet. So he is a big doubt going into Game Week 20. My guess right now would be that Rice doesn't play against Bournemouth. I just don't think they're going to take the risk. If we're already on Friday and the swelling's not gone down yet, will it go down enough by Saturday to risk him? I'm not so sure. And also, the other reason why I don't think they'll bother playing him is they play on Saturday, then they play again on Thursday. So it is quite a good turnaround, to be fair, 5 days. But the match is against Liverpool. It's a huge game. So I think if the decision is we risk him for this, and if that causes a problem, he's going to miss Liverpool, or we don't risk him and then he'd be fine for Liverpool, I think they'd rather have him for that Liverpool game. Not that Bournemouth away is easy, and obviously Rice is a huge part of that Arsenal team. So if he can play, he will. I just think it's looking unlikely. Should you sell him? That depends on whether you've got good cover. Because Declan Rice is still a pretty good option longer term. Like the fixtures for Arsenal after Liverpool, Forest away, Man United at home, Leeds away, Sunderland at home. So if you can cover him this week, you could keep him. But if it's looking like a problem for your team to have him, then bearing in mind it's Liverpool straight after, I don't mind selling him to someone like Anthony Gordon if you've got the spare transfer to do it. Would I do it for a hit? Probably not if you've got bench cover. And then elsewhere for news for Arsenal, Calafiori and Mosquera are out. So my guess for the back four will be the same one that played in Game Week 19. So Timber right back, Saliba Gabriel centre backs, and then Nketiah left back. Obviously, Lewis Skelly could play left back, but he's hardly been used at all in the Premier League this year. So if you've got Nketiah, there is obviously some risk. He's not a guaranteed starter, but I think he will. And obviously, Gabriel is the same, right? He's only just back from injury, but I'm pretty sure he's going to be in that 11. For Newcastle, Lewis Hall, by the way, never had an injury that forced him off in the last game, but he was getting some treatment at stages throughout that game. Eddie Howe said he should be okay, so if you've got him, I wouldn't worry. He also said that Livramento and Trippier are getting close, so that's 2 right backs they might have back soon. Miley at the moment is playing right back. I suspect his minutes will go down once these 2 are back. I don't think it's a case that Miley will just go straight into midfield and play every game. So if you're looking at him as a cheap enabler that you need to use a few times, I'm not sure how much of a long-term option he will be. And Botman apparently is trained. So another option to play centre-back sometime soon, although Botman can never really stay fit. So I think if you've got Chow, I wouldn't be all that worried. For Brighton, for Minte, the scan came back clear. It was just a dead leg. He's going to train today, and they'll assess whether he can start. I think Minte is a don't buy, but if you've got him, I would risk it. Burnley at home, I would put him in your 11, because if he does play, it's such a good fixture. Matoma's an option to start, and Weaver is out, just in case you're looking at those 2 players. And then for Bournemouth, Semenyo, Iriola has said, will play against Arsenal, and the plan for him is to play against Spurs as well. So we know at this point, the transfer to City is basically inevitable. It hasn't happened yet. But because of the quick turnaround in games, it sounds like he's going to play this weekend, then play against Spurs. So if you've got Semenyo, and you're thinking this week, I just don't really want to sell him. I'm happy enough to play him against Arsenal. He's going to play 90. It looks like he's going to play against Spurs as well. And he'll probably play 90 minutes in that game. So if you're going to keep him through Arsenal, you might as well keep him for the Spurs game because it's not that bad of a fixture. And then decide what to do with him 22 onwards. The other nice thing about that is Game Week 22 is where Chelsea's fixture swing comes in. So if you're looking at Semenyo now, you don't like any of the options. Game Week 22, maybe you go to Neto, maybe you go to Enzo Fernandez. So I still think Arsenal at home's like not a great fixture for Semenyo. But if you're in a position where you don't want to sell him, sounds like you don't have to. So for Everton, David Moyes says that Michael Keane has a chance to be fit for Game Week 20. So he's not been ruled out, but it's not a guarantee that he's going to be available either. So it's a bit of a tricky spot to be in if you're a Keane owner. Obviously, don't buy him this week if you don't have him in your squad already. Everton do have Brentford at home this week, followed by Wolves at home. So I think if you can cover him this week, I'd be tempted to hold on to him. The problem you've got is it's probably a case that Keane is a 90-minute player or that he'll play 0 minutes. But I guess there is a chance that he could come off the bench. Because if you look at the last game against Forest, it was Tarkowski and O'Brien that played centre-backs, and Patterson played right-back. So O'Brien has played a lot of minutes at right-back, but that's not his natural position. So is it possible that Patterson starts again with O'Brien centre-back, and when they want to bring Patterson off, Keane comes on, O'Brien moves back to right-back? It's a possibility, I would imagine. If you're an Everton fan, I'd be really interested in hearing your thoughts in the comments below, but I think that's a possibility. So my guess would be Keane is 90 minutes or just not going to play at all, but there is a chance of a cameo. So I think if you can bench him this week and hold him for the Wolves game, that's probably the way to go about it. If you're in a position where you really need him to play and you've got a spare transfer, maybe it's even worth thinking about moving him on. But I think my preference would be to hold him for that Wolves game, because on paper that looks really nice. We know how good he is for DEFCON. We know how good he is for goal threat as well. But he is a slight problem this week. He is a slight doubt. Alcaraz is out, just in case anyone took the punt there. For Man United, no new issues. So the likes of Dorgu, Dalot, Cunha, all good to go for game week 20, but nobody is expected back. So presumably that's like the likes of Mason Mount, Bruno Fernandes, etc. So if you're a Mount owner, he pretty much has to go. For Man City, Doku and Rodri are back. They came off the bench against Sunderland. Whether or not they'll be fit to start the next game, we'll have to wait and see. But obviously Doku provides a bit of competition now in those wide spots, and they're looking to sign Semenyo soon. For Liverpool, Gomez will train today. So that's another option they have for the right-back position. So hopefully that means Szoboszlai will keep playing in midfield or even right wing. Wirtz was subbed early. Slot said that's because he felt his hamstring after the Wolves game, and he only trained on Wednesday. So he felt his hamstring after the Wolves game in game week 18, didn't train as much as all the other players, I imagine, before the game against... Well, I can't remember who Liverpool played in game week 19. I literally own Szoboszlai. Home to Leeds, that's it. So he wasn't training properly before that game, which is why he got subbed early. That's a problem going forward because of the amount of games they've got. So I don't think Wirtz is a must-sell. My guess would be that he will start against Fulham, but it's obviously not a guarantee, and even if he does, he could be subbed early again. So if you're looking at Wirtz as potentially a cash cow to downgrade to someone else to put money elsewhere, I think that's kind of okay if you can do it for free. So at the time of recording, it's not been officially confirmed by Crystal Palace or Spurs yet, but apparently Brennan Johnson has completed his move to Crystal Palace. He's a 6.5 million option in FPL. I've had a lot of questions about what I think about him as a pick moving forward. And according to Sammy Mokbel, a BBC journalist, he reckons he's available for the Newcastle game in game week 20. So potentially we could see him feature this week. In my opinion, he's quite an easy ignore for now, because it's Newcastle away, Villa at home, Sunderland away, Chelsea at home next 4. So it's not an amazing fixture run anyway. And we're not quite sure what his minutes will be like. Now, presumably, with no Sarr there and Ekitike injured, Brennan Johnson will play quite a few minutes until Sarr is back from AFCON. But once Sarr is back, you've got Sarr and Pino for the number 10 spots, and you've got Mateta up front. Now, I would assume Brennan Johnson can play either of those positions, either as the number 9 if Mateta needs a rest, or as one of the 10s, but I don't think his minutes will be fully secure in that team. I just do not see any need to rush in to buy him. It's not like he's a 5.5 million super cheap option or anything like that. Like, he's not super expensive either at 6.5, but he doesn't scream go out and buy like straight away. I'd rather see what kind of happens. Like later on, game weeks 24 to 27, Forest away, Brighton away, Burnley at home, Wolves at home. That doesn't look too bad. But at that point, Sarr is back. So I think Brennan Johnson is potentially an okay option, but he's not so good that I would rush out and get him right now. So let's get into some of your questions. Who would you sell, Ekitike or Thiago? Now, if the question was who do I think will score the most points over the next 3 to 5 weeks, my money would be on Ekitike. His underlying stats are better. The guy likes to shoot. His minutes are probably just as good as Thiago right now. He is going to score more points, but there is a 2.1 million difference in price. That's quite a lot. So you have to ask yourself, what will that 2.1 million allow me to do? Which players am I going to want to bring in over the next few weeks? Do I own Gabriel? If not, when do I want to get him? If Bruno Fernandes is back by game week 24, do I want to get him back in? Do I want to get Saka? If not, do I want Palmer soon? What are my routes to get those players if I keep Ekitike? And you have to look at that for your own team on an individual basis. Basically, if Ekitike is blocking you from doing too much stuff, I would just keep Thiago instead. Like, I look at it from my own team point of view. if I wanted to do Thiago to Ekitike, which is obviously a move a lot of people did a couple of game weeks ago, I've got to free up 2.1 million. I don't want to sell Cunha before he plays Leeds and Burnley. Foden keeps playing 90 minutes. Szoboszlai doesn't free up enough money. And I'm more than happy with Saka. If the choice is Saka or Ekitike, I'm taking Saka every single time at the moment. So I don't want to get rid of him. Now, Van Dijk could be sold, but it would have to be a 3.8 million defender. So then it's a choice about whether I want to tank a defender spot, or do I want to get in like a 4.5 million defender and downgrade someone else to get the money? So make 3 transfers. It's just not worth it. So you need to decide over the next few weeks which players you want to bring in and how easy that is to do with Ekitike. I said that on a video the other day. I think Ekitike is great, but I think over the next couple of weeks, people will start to look at their team and feel like the structure's not quite right and that he might be the one to free money up from. It's difficult because he's got Burnley at home in game week 22, so you don't want to sell him before that. But that's what you need to weigh up. But I think they're both good options. Ekitike will score more points, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's the one to keep. So if I was wildcarding right now, I'm not sure I would have Ekitike on there. I think I'd probably find better ways to spend the money in midfield and defence. So I don't want to sit here and say sell Ekitike because it's so reactionary to the last couple of weeks. You need to decide who you want to bring in and whether you can afford it. And if you can, then Ekitike might be the one to sell. So would you switch Timber to Gabriel if you've got the exact money to do the move? And would you do it for a -4? Now keep in mind that Gabriel will probably rise in price ahead of the deadline, maybe even tonight. So if that happens, you won't be able to make the move anymore if you've got exact money. That being said, I'm not sure I would make that move. Like, Gabriel is great, arguably the best defender in FPL and probably the best Arsenal defender to own right now. And if you're bringing in a new Arsenal defender, he is the one to get. But Timber is not terrible. He is still a good pick. He plays for exactly the same defence. His minutes are good too. And his underlying stats in terms of attacking threat are good. 0.28 expected goal involvement per 90 minutes so far this season. That is really good. Now, Ben White is back now. So maybe at some point, Ben White gets a game at right back and Timber misses out. But I don't think that's going to happen that often. I think there's a good chance that Timber will just start against Bournemouth and Liverpool and then start the majority of games afterwards. It's worth pointing out that Arsenal have got a lot of non-Premier League games which aren't all that important. Like FA Cup is an easy fixture. Champions League is basically done for Arsenal. They can rotate players in those games, like Ben White coming in for Timber. So I really do get the temptation to make the move, and I would rather have Gabriel. But if you're sat there with 1 or 2 transfers, I think you put yourself in a better position if you just roll. Because there will be other stuff to do in the coming weeks. And yes, Gabriel might be better than Timber, but it's not like there's a massive gap between the two. Like, if I was in the same position, I do feel like maybe I would talk myself into doing it, but I'm not convinced it's the right move. I definitely wouldn't do it for a -4. Like, it's not crazy to do it. Now, actually, do you know what? I think that is crazy to do. There is no way I would sell Timber for a -4, even for Gabriel. So it's a move you can do if you want for free, especially if you've got multiple transfers stacked up. But Timber is not bad. And by holding him, okay, maybe Gabriel outscores him by a few points over the next few games, but the additional transfers might get you even more points with another opportunity for a different player later on. So I think for now, it can probably wait. So similar question, is Van Dijk to Gabriel a move that needs to be done immediately? No. I think it's a perfectly reasonable move to make, and if you've got spare transfers to do it and you can do it in one move, excellent. I would rather own Gabriel. If I was wildcarding this week, he'd be one of the first names on the team sheet, way ahead of Van Dijk. So Gabriel is the better pick, but it's not a move that has to be done at all costs. If you've got other stuff to sort out, I definitely wouldn't do it for a -4. It's not great that Van Dijk's got Arsenal away in game week 21, but either side of that is Fulham away, Burnley at home. That's absolutely fine for a defender you know will play and you know has a bit of goal threat as well. He came very close to scoring against Leeds. So if you've got a spare move and nothing else to do and your team is looking great, by all means do Van Dijk to Gabriel, get ahead of that price rise. But if you've got other stuff, I wouldn't be sat there in a panic because I own Van Dijk and not Gabriel. And I know earlier on in the week, I talked about Gabriel a lot. I got him on him earlier. There's a lot of excitement about him. He is great, but we're already getting to the point now where we're talking about him as if you can't do well in FPL unless you own Gabriel, and that's just not the case. And obviously, he's off the back of a 15-pointer, so it feels even worse to not own him. He's not going to keep getting 15-pointers every week. So by all means, do Van Dijk to Gabriel. I don't mind that as a move whatsoever. but it's not a move that's absolutely essential either. So quite a few people asked a similar question to this. Is Phil Foden a sell at this point? He's predicted to drop in price today and his performances have stagnated. I don't see any obvious midfielder I want to get in now instead, but I could just free up the cash. Now on that last point, I'll probably talk about this a little bit later because there's another question on selling midfielders. If you don't know who you want to buy, then I would argue there's no need to sell the player. You might as well wait and see what comes up later on. On the dropping in price today, okay, losing team value is not great. But again, if you're not sure about who to sell Foden for, who cares about the team value? And on the performances have stagnated, I think a better way of putting that is the points have dried up a little bit. Because actually, if you look at his stats for the last couple of games, it was, let me just find them here, 0.49 expected goal involvement against Sunderland, 0.66 against Forest, 0.33 against West Ham. So the West Ham game, not great. And even the Palace game before that wasn't amazing. But overall, his stats have actually been pretty good. Like for the season, he's running at about 0.5 expected goal involvement per 90. That's excellent, especially when you're playing 90 minutes pretty much every single week. Now, maybe with Doku back and Cherki playing well and Semenyo coming in, maybe that has a knock-on effect on Foden's minutes. But right now, you've got a Man City attacker that's basically playing 90 minutes every single game with Brighton at home, Man United away, Wolves at home to come after Chelsea. 3 pretty good fixtures. I do not need to see... I do not see a rush. I do not see a need to rush out and sell him. That's what I'm trying to say, just very badly. I think he's still a really good pick. I think people are way too reactionary to points that happen. And don't get me wrong, I bought him in recently. It was difficult to go without him because of the amount of points he was getting, but he hasn't now become bad. He is still a good pick. I would say that from the large majority of people watching this video, there is almost no justification to sell him. Maybe if you're doing like Foden and Semenyo down to a cheap midfielder to go and get Saka or something, that might be okay. Like Saka's good, but he's not miles better than Foden. I'd probably roll the transfers instead in that position. So is Nico O'Reilly a potential sell, having been subbed before the 60th minute? I would say for most people that own him, it's just worth monitoring the situation. It's not worth panicking about. He hasn't suddenly become a terrible pick, but obviously with Ake fit and with Vardiol there is the opportunity for Pep sometimes to play one of those players left back. And actually, when Vardiol came on, he played really well. Like he came very close to an attack and return. So it is something we could see again. But I'm not convinced that Ake is going to play loads of games at left centre back and Vardiol's always going to play left back from now on. So I wouldn't be in a rush to sell him. But I would also say, let's say you really want to get Gabriel this week, which a lot of people do, and you weren't sure about which defender to sell. This might give you a reason to sell O'Reilly. Well, he could get subbed before the 60th minute again. At some point, he could get benched. I'm just going to move him on and reduce the headache. That's absolutely fine. But I think for my prediction would be that he'll probably start against Chelsea. That's the thing, is we don't know whether Pep made that change because he wasn't happy with the performance or just because he wanted to give him a bit of a rest and just bring on another player instead. And like I said, Vardiol did play really well. And Ake was actually quite good as well, I have to say. So O'Reilly's minutes probably do take a little bit of a dip, but there is every chance he just plays against Chelsea, then again against Brighton. And longer term, you know that Ain't Nouri's going to come back from AFCON. That puts another player in the mix. So long term, he's probably not a great pick. But for now, I think he's okay. Like again, if I was sat there with Gabriel already in my team and Nico O'Reilly, and there wasn't really any other defenders I wanted to move to, I would just probably play him again. Or even better, if you've got a team where you can bench him this week and then maybe reassess after Chelsea, that might be quite nice. I just think in general this week, there's not many great defenders to bring in. Like if you've got Van Heck against Burnley, great, but you're probably not going to bring him in. Arsenal defenders are okay. You wouldn't bring in a Man United defender this week. Everton, it's Tarkowski or nothing right now. Like Newcastle, maybe Lewis Hall or Chow. You could do Nico O'Reilly to one of those two. I'm not sure I would. Maybe like Van de Ven against Sunderland. It's okay. I think for most people, it's probably just a hold and hope that he keeps getting good minutes over the next couple of fixtures. So this question sort of relates to the Foden one earlier. What order would you put these midfielders in for who needs to be sold first? Semenyo, Cunha, Foden and Saka. I'm going to want Bruno and Palmer soon. So to answer the question really quickly, probably Semenyo because he's going to go to Man City and then probably not be a great FPL pick. Then Cunha after Burnley. Foden if his minutes take a dip. And then maybe Saka when you really need Palmer, if that's your only route to him. So the order would probably be the order they're written. Semenyo first, then Cunha, then Foden, then Saka. But on a related topic, I was thinking about this earlier in terms of Virgil van Dijk, because a lot of people want to sell him right now. My theory is, and this is going to sound a bit wishy-washy, but I think it makes sense, people concentrate too much on who needs to be sold rather than who needs to be brought. And I think there is a difference. So if you've got these 4 midfielders in your team, okay, it's nice to have a plan that at some point you might want Bruno and Palmer. How could I get them in? But until they are options, you don't need to worry about how to bring them in. So you don't need to sell any of those midfielders unless there's someone you think is a great transfer to bring in instead. So it's like I said for Semenyo earlier, if you're sat there and he's going to play against Arsenal Arsenal at home this week and Spurs at home next week, and you're not quite sure who to bring in, then the answer is just to keep Semenyo. You don't need to worry about when you're going to sell him. You sell him when he becomes a problem or when there's someone better to bring in. So it's the same situation as I feel with Virgil van Dijk. People can tell me he's rubbish value, he's not done the point. I know he hasn't scored many points, right? I've had him in my team every week since game week 4. But until there's someone better to buy, I just leave him in my team. Until there's an impactful transfer I can make, I might as well leave him. And I feel the same with Foden and Saka. Like, because Foden's not done points in the last 3 game weeks, people are now thinking about selling him, but no one seems to have a clear idea on who they want to bring in. So don't worry about selling him. Just keep hold of him until you get an opportunity to move him on. And maybe that opportunity never comes. Exactly the same with, like, Saka is like, I think Saka's really interesting. He scored since I bought him in game week 11, he scored 6.4 points per game, which is pretty good. Now, there will be cheaper players out there that provide better value, but for consistency, 10 odd million, 6.4 points per game, that's quite good. But all you ever hear about Saka is, well, I need to sell him, he's not scoring enough points. Who for, though? And if you don't have a good answer to that, you don't need to sell Saka. So, by all means, have a plan for how Bruno and Palmer might come in. Like, in the back of my mind, I've said this lots of times for my team selection, Saka to Palmer, right there. Maybe I free up money to upgrade Cunha back to Bruno when he's an option. But until I need to get someone else in, like, what does it matter? Like for Cunha, for example, he's got Leeds away, Burnley away, so just don't worry about it. Just play him for those 2 games, then decide what to do in game week 22. My rough plan is to do Cunha to Enzo Fernandez, but I might get to game week 22 and decide that I don't want Enzo. And if there's no one else I want, I'll just keep Cunha through the bad fixtures. So, yeah, I know it's something I was thinking about earlier, which is kind of related to this question, which is why I wanted to get it off my chest about it. But I just honestly concentrate on who you need to buy more. And if you haven't got a good answer for that, you can probably just roll. Like, more opportunities will come up later to make good transfers. They don't have to be done straight away. So is Richarlison a buy for the next 4 fixtures? Now, Spurs' next 4 game weeks are quite good. So it's Sunderland at home in game week 20, followed by Bournemouth away, West Ham at home, Burnley away. So I can see why people would look at them as a short-term punt. My problem with Richarlison is the minutes. Like, that's my problem with every player, basically. Like, when he starts, he often plays 90, but the problem is there's the odd benching here and there as well. So against Brentford away and Palace away, the last 2 game weeks, he played 90 minutes in both games. The match before that against Liverpool was only 10. Then the 2 games before that, Forest away, Brentford at home, 90 minutes. The game before that, it was Newcastle, it was only 13 off the bench. So there's almost, I would say, no guarantee. Like, there's no guarantee at all that he's going to start the next 4. It could be 2 games that he starts, it could be 3. Now, the fixtures are so good that if he starts Sunderland, West Ham and Burnley, that might be enough for good points. Is it enough to use a transfer to bring him in and take him straight back out again, though, in 4 weeks' time? I don't think so. I think to buy Richarlison, you've got to be in a position where you're sat there with 4 or 5 transfers, not much else to do, and you're willing to take a short-term punt. Even in that situation, though, like if you've got 4 transfers, for example, I'm pretty sure in most cases, I'd rather roll to 5 than get Richarlison in. Because what if you bring him in this week and this is the one he's benched for? Straight away, you've got a headache and it's Bournemouth away. Then he starts that. Then you don't know if he's going to start either of the next 2. I just wouldn't bother going there. If you really wanted to buy a Spurs player, then you should probably buy the one that just starts every single time. But that's Kudus and that's a midfielder instead. So he started, I can't remember the last time he got benched. It was against Man United in Gameweek 11. He didn't play at all. He might have been injured or suspended there. I can't quite remember. But he never gets benched, basically. You're looking at 90, 84, 57, 79, 79 his last 5 game weeks. So maybe if you need a midfielder. Kudus also took a penalty in Europe ahead of Richarlison. So he may be first choice penalty taker for Spurs, but that's far from a guarantee. He's the one to go for if you want to take a punt, because you know the minutes are there. But Kudus is just so... He's just so uninspiring to me. Like, you look at the underlying stats, 0.25 expected goal involvement per 90 minutes. It's just not that good. Now, the fixtures are maybe there where he can get you some returns. If he's on penalties, then great. But I don't know. There's something about Spurs I just wouldn't want to go there as a short-term move. I think people are struggling with midfielders right now. Maybe they're already tripped up on Man City, so they can't get Cherky. There's no interest in Szoboszlai. When you start getting to 6.5 million or below, there's not many options. And if you've only got that much money to spend, maybe you look at someone like Kudus, but only in that specific scenario. Otherwise, I'd probably just ignore him. I cannot get on board with Richarlison. I need players that start. And with games in quick succession, then they got more games in January, Champions League and stuff, Richarlison will just be a headache, I promise you that. So are Mukiele and Alderete the best defensive enablers? I mean, simple answer is probably yes. I mean, they kept another clean sheet yesterday, this time against Man City. I think Alderete, I'm just going to double check here, is still 4 million and pretty good for defensive contributions. And then Mukiele is, 4.2. So 4 and 4.2 million. Arguably, well, not even arguably, right? Better defence than Burnley. Just as good, if not better, than Leeds as well. So in terms of the players around that 4 million price point, it is them. Does that mean you need to rush out and buy them? Of course not. But if you've got a defender that you want to downgrade to get money for elsewhere, they are the two that I would look at. Actually, as well, they have got some quite nice fixtures coming up. Like, if you had to play them against Spurs away or Brentford away next 2 weeks, it's not that bad. Palace at home in 22, West Ham away in 23, Burnley at home in 24, and then Fulham at home in 27. They are all fixtures where they could be useful. So actually, when I saw this question, it got me thinking... When I saw this question, I started putting the graphics together and I saw the fixtures they got coming up. It started putting thoughts in my mind. Okay, maybe I keep Van Dijk until Burnley at home in 22, and then maybe I do downgrade him and just put some more money into my attack. So I think, essentially, when you want to downgrade a defender and go for someone cheap, it's Mukiele or Alderete. But I wouldn't rush out to go and get them. They're not. I know they've done really well recently, but it's not like the next 2 to 3 fixtures are amazing. But they are definitely playable in a lot of fixtures because of the amount of times they hit defensive contributions. If we look at Mukiele here, okay, he only got... 11's fine for a defender. So he got defensive contributions against City and Leeds. Before that, it was 7, 8, 9, 9, 9. So he has missed it a few times, but he comes very close. And Alderete, I think, is even better and seems to be back to being nailed on again as well. So he's got 17, 15, 8, 8, 8, and 13. So they're not going to hit it every week, but for that price, it's worth a bet, basically, if you need someone cheap. So are they the best defensive enablers? Yes. So who do you prefer to bring in this week? Morgan Rogers or Anthony Gordon? I would take a punt on Gordon. I'd go for the penalties. I'd go for the better stats, and I would go for the better fixtures. Rogers obviously has an advantage in terms of minutes. You know he will start every single game and play 90 minutes pretty much in every single one of those as well. Gordon, you do not have that guarantee, especially with the amount of fixtures that Newcastle have got in January. They've got important FA Cup games, Carabao Cup, and Champions League as well. So Gordon will get benched in some of those games. They might not all be in the Premier League, but it is possible. And even when he starts, he could get subbed early. So that is something worth keeping in mind. But his underlying stats in terms of goal threat and creativity are just so much better, and he's on penalties. So I would absolutely take the punt because of the fixtures that Newcastle have got coming up. Palace at home, Leeds at home, Wolves away next 3. Versus Forest at home, Palace away, Everton at home. It's not to say that I hate Rodgers or that I think he's a bad pick. I just think for 0.1 million less, I go for the penalty taker with the better fixtures as a shorter term move. So what would you do with Woltemade? He was just benched but has good upcoming fixtures. Would you do Woltemade to Bowen or save the transfer? So Woltemade long term has to go. With Visser fit and Woltemade fit, basically they're going to eat into each other's minutes. So long term, that's not good from an FPL point of view. But it's almost certain that Woltemade will start this game against Palace at home. Because with Visser, obviously he's back from injury now. He's out for a while. He's been building up his minutes. If you look at the last few games, So the last 5 game weeks for Vissa, he got 79 minutes against Burnley. Before that, it was all benchings. So 22, 17, 15, 16. It seems very, very unlikely that they will play Vissa again so quickly after the last game when they can just use Woltemade instead. So I think if you're a Woltemade owner, you keep him for Palace at home, and the preference would probably be to roll the transfer. I mean, if you think you're going to make that move anyway to Bowen, no matter what, after this week, you could just bring the move forward a week because Bowen does have Wolves this week. But I think I would prefer to play Woltemade for game week 20, roll the transfer, and then see what your options are in game week 21. And it might be that you end up moving to Bowen anyway, but maybe something else crops up, which is a better move for your team. Maybe you just downgrade Woltemade to someone super cheap and put that money into midfield. You never know what's right around the corner. So I do agree with most people that own Woltemade that he's now an issue. But I think he'll start this week. I think that's pretty much guaranteed. Now, he might only play 65, 70, 75 minutes, but I think that's okay versus using a transfer right now. It's annoying, though, because you're not probably going to get the Leeds game. I would assume Woltemade starts 20, Vissa starts 21, and then game week 22 onwards, that's after the FA Cup break. So Newcastle will have multiple games before that. So yeah, I'd probably keep, I think, versus selling to Bowen, but it might be you get to game week 21 and you just make that transfer anyway. So is there anyone else to consider for captaincy this week apart from Haaland? Probably not. I don't think it's a great week to go against him. When you look at the fixtures this week, like Watkins or Rodgers against Forest home, they just do not scream captaincy material to me. Brighton have got Burnley, but which attackers do you own? And which of those attackers will definitely start? Like Welbeck, Minte, they just can't be relied on. So they're not options either. Arsenal against Bournemouth is okay. So someone like Saka potentially. But if you captain Saka, they get a penalty and Gyökeres takes it again. That's just super frustrating. Like if the Bournemouth game was at home, I'd be a bit more keen to look at Saka. But away from home, it's got to be really good to go against Haaland. I don't think Saka away to Bournemouth is quite there. Cunha away to Leeds is just a worse option than he was at home to Wolves. And we saw how bad Man United were in that Wolves game. I really do fear for them against Leeds. I don't think they'll get absolutely like smashed, like 4-0 or something like that. But I think there's a good chance Man United lose that game. Now, you can lose a game and still be good for FPL, right? They could lose that 3-2. Cunha scores 2 goals. Great captain. I just don't necessarily see it. I like Cunha because I think he'll be on penalties and he likes to shoot a lot. But that game's not going to be easy. So I wasn't... I thought about Cunha last week, but I was never really properly on board with it. I'm less on board with it this week. You ain't captain an Everton attacker. Who else is there? Gordon against Palace at home? Woltemade? They're just not that inspiring. So I really do think it's Haaland. I mean, if you look at the fixtures that he's got coming up, there's not that many weeks to go against him. Brighton at home 21, Man United away 22, Wolves at home 23. So I think in 23, he's going to be an absolute lock for most people. 21... is there going to be an opportunity to go against him? Again, Newcastle against Leeds, but you are not going to have confidence to captain one of their players. Man City are at home to Brighton. Like Arsenal are at home to Liverpool. It's not a terrible fixture right now to play Liverpool, but you're not going to captain Saka, I don't think, for that game. Cole Palmer, maybe. But will the confidence be there in his minutes? It's away to Fulham. It's probably not good enough to go against Haaland. So I'm just going to accept right now I'm captaining Haaland this week and next week. 22 is away to Man United. Maybe you go like Palmer against Brentford at home. Maybe you go for a Liverpool attacker against Burnley, like Ekitike, if you own him. Maybe you've got the chance to do it there. I mean, Man United away is not a bad fixture for Haaland. So, look, it sucks, right? It's boring when it's just the same captain every single week. But there will be opportunities with double game weeks and stuff like that to go against Haaland. Maybe when he plays Liverpool away in 25. I'm not going to go and check all the fixtures that week. Maybe that's the time to do it. But yeah, this week, I just do not see an obvious standout. I mean, if you think Chelsea at home is not that great of a fixture, you could just take a punt on someone like Saka. But I own Saka and I'm definitely going to captain Haaland. So I'm just going to quickly go through some final thoughts for my own team. And for once, this might actually be quick because basically I'm going to roll. I've not seen anything in the press conferences so far which tells me I should do anything else other than roll to 2 free transfers for game week 21. On Paquetá, from what I can see, Nuno has not had a press conference today, and there is absolutely no news anywhere that I can find to say whether he's fit or not for Wolves away. I'm hoping because of the lack of news out there that means he is fine, but he clearly went off with something he was struggling with in game week 19. So he is a doubt. I probably wouldn't buy him this week, but because he's already in my team and because it's Wolves away, on current information, I've just got to risk him. Worst case scenario, Anderson against Liverpool at home comes off my bench and I play 4-4-2. I just really favour getting back to 2 free transfers versus dealing with Paquetá, especially when I don't know if he's out. So the rest of the team looks kind of okay. They have now yellow flagged Lewis Hall. Presumably that's because Eddie Howe said he should be okay and didn't say he's definitely okay, but I'm not going to do anything about that. Would it be really annoying if Lewis Hall and Paquetá miss out? Yes, because I've got Anderson against Liverpool at home and Senesi against Arsenal at home, but there is not enough information to make a move. And I think Lewis Hall will probably be fine. And if not, he's got a good fixture in game week 21 anyway. So Raya, Gabriel double up against Bournemouth away. My prediction is that Gabriel will start. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty confident. Van Dijk against Fulham away. As I've said already, he's absolutely fine to hold until I need the money or until there's a much better defender to buy. Lewis Hall against Palace at home. My midfield 5, Szoboszlai Fulham away, Paquetá Wolves away. Hopefully he plays. Foden Chelsea at home, Saka Bournemouth away, Cunha Leeds away, and then up front Thiago Everton away and Haaland Chelsea at home. He will be my captain. I don't really foresee any unless there's injuries, I don't foresee any players that I desperately need until 22-24 onwards, which is mostly going to be Chelsea players. I think Arsenal fixtures are good most of the way through. Lewis Hall can be a short-term move for me. And by the way, once the fixtures get a bit more difficult for the likes of Lewis Hall, that's when Anderson and Senesi come back into play. So Joachim Anderson, Leeds away 22, Brighton at home 23, United away 24, Everton at home 25. There's a few fixtures there I could play him in if I needed to. Sunderland away 27, West Ham at home 29, Spurs at home 28. It's all fine. Like 31, Burnley at home. There's lots of long-term fixtures he could be used for. And then Senesi's kind of similar. So after Arsenal at home, I'm going to probably play him against Spurs at home and bench Van Dijk next week. Then I'm going to bench him for Brighton away, Liverpool at home. But from 24 onwards, Wolves away, Villa at home, Everton away, West Ham away, Sunderland at home, Brentford at home. Good fixtures. And he's good for DEFCON. So I'm kind of okay. This week won't be great if a player misses out. And next week won't be great because I've got 4 players in the Liverpool-Arsenal... No, actually 5 players in the Liverpool-Arsenal game. But once I'm past that, I think I'm looking okay. So I really want to try and roll right up until game week 22. And even that week, I might not make a transfer. Let's see what happens. If you enjoyed that video, make sure to give it a like and hit that subscribe button. I will be live at 9 AM UK time on Saturday morning for the deadline stream. I'll catch some of you for that then. Good luck this week. And yeah, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I'll catch you tomorrow.